So November 4th, Octagon 48, AO Arena. We've seen it everywhere, but I just want to hear from the man himself. Will this be your last fight?
We'll have to see. We'll have to see when I'm in there.
So if you're not fully sure, why is all the promotion kind of based around this?
Because that was basically what I was coming back for. But obviously, the way I'm feeling and the way training's going and the progression I've made over the last few months, I'm interested to see what I'm capable of in there on the 4th of November.
Yeah, because that's kind of one of the questions I was going to ask you later on. If you go out there and you get a 20-second knockout, can you really walk away from that without testing it a little bit more?
Well, definitely not. No, definitely not. That's what I mean. I know what I've got. I know what I'm capable of. I want to show it. I need to get in there and do it. On the 4th of November, I want to put this kid away in good fashion.
And so the fight's going to be in your backyard. How many friends, family are you expecting to be there?
I've got quite a few going down. My family, friends, fans. I've had loads of people message me on social saying they've already bought tickets. I've got a load of tickets to pass on to people, so it's going to be good because I've fought out of town for quite a while now, so it's going to be good to be back in the UK.
So that's what I was going to ask you. Well, what were your thoughts when you got the call from your agent or the promoter, whoever, and they were like, "Oh, we have an event in Manchester. How do you want to be on that fight card?"
Oh yeah, I'm made up. It's just up the road. Don't have to take no flights. Straight there, get it done.
And so, what do you think about your opponent? I know you had the opponent change. Are you really focused on that, or are you just kind of worried about this being your moment?
I have a specific style of fighting that I like to stick to, so it doesn't really matter who the opponent is. I always have the same sort of idea of how I want to fight in there. I'm always I like to wrestle, I like to bang, and that's what I always bring to every opponent.
And so, what are you really expecting from him? Are you looking a lot into his last couple fights, or are you just making sure you're the best you can be?
Yeah, I think I've only seen one of his fights. I always watch one just to see what the style is, and then after that, it's just focusing on myself. Um, he's a bit taller than the opponent I had. He likes to strike. He's been in there with some good guys. His record is like nearly 50-50, but you know, records are for DJs, aren't they? You've got to understand it's not how many fights you've had or how many you've won, it's who you've fought.
And so, how do you really see this fight playing out? Are you looking too much into an actual game plan, or is it just going to go out there? You never really know what to expect.
Yeah, I've been working hard so that I can put pressure on early. I want to go in, put the pressure on straight away, forward motion, throw some big hands, and if he hits the cage, I'm going to be shooting and taking him down.
And so, since they're advertising me as your retirement fight, we don't know if that's the case. More importantly, it's in Manchester. Do you feel an added spark in your training camp compared to your last few fights?
Yeah, definitely. I feel I added spark anyway because I just want to. The last fight didn't go to plan. It wasn't a good fight for me. So I've got that fire inside me to get out there and show them what I'm really capable of. I mean, I've done it many times before, but as a fighter, you're always remembered by your last fight. So you want to get back out there and put a lot of doubters to bed.
And so, with all this retirement talk, how many times throughout your career have you truly considered putting up the gloves for good?
Not once. That was the first time after my last fight. That was the first time.
And
It
so,
didn't last long
are you locked into a contract right now with Octagon, or why did you choose to return to that promotion?
because they kept contacting my manager saying that they're in Manchester and they would like me to be a part of it, come out for the last fight, and even though I retired, they wanted me a part of the show because I've been a UK veteran for a long time. I've been fighting for the UK for a long time, so I think they wanted all the top guys from over here to be on the event and make that show a success. So I'm happy to be a part of it.
Yeah, what do you really think about that event? Because we've seen Octagon put on good events, but they haven't really hit that UK and the US markets. But now they're putting this event. There's a couple other Cage Warriors veterans, a couple other Cage Warriors champions on this card. Seems like it could be a huge opportunity for them.
Yeah, I think it'll go well for them. I think that they're really good as a promotion. They know how to sell tickets. They know how to put bums on the seats. When I fought over in Prague, it was unbelievable. The amount of people that was there. It sold out dead quick. It was huge. There was 20,000 people there, I think.
Yeah, I feel like the full MMA community really hasn't grasped how fast Octagon is growing because just that event you're talking about right there, they put a lot of butts in seats, a lot of good fights, and they're not really talked about as much compared to some of these other promotions.
Yeah, I think that's why they want to get over here and they want to start spreading the feathers, spreading the wings a bit more, because this is the way forward for them to reach out to different parts of the world now, because they've been massive over in Europe, and I think they want to start showing how good a show they really are by getting out there more. So this is like one of the first steps.
And so back to the whole, retirement thing. Does any part of you kind of feel like this is being a little forced? Because I don't feel like I'm talking to a guy right now who's ready to walk away, depending on what happens in the next fight.
Because I did consider it. I did retire, and I was willing to retire at the time, but I was still training, still getting in training. I'm doing well in training. To be honest with you, my last fight, I was injured. I'd had a herniated disc. I had a lot of muscle wastage in the left side of my body. So when I got clipped in that fight, my brain switched off because I've been hit with everything but the kitchen sink and I've never gone down. And then all of a sudden I'm getting clipped with a little shot. That's why my head went and I thought, oh, I'm finished. But I spoke to a few specialists and stuff like that, and they told me that my body was functioning at 50% because of all the nerve damage I had and that. But I've managed to overcome that now and get back to the way I was and better. I feel like I'm a lot more better technically because I've carried on working through the injury and had to learn new techniques and use my body in a better way. And now that my strength's come back as well to add to that, I feel like I'm going to be a new version of myself. But like I say, obviously, this is what I believe. So I just need to do it on the 4th of November because then how the 4th of November goes, that's what I'm going to go with.
And thank God you're fully healthy now, but I would imagine that must have been kind of a tough time accepting that reality, at least at that moment that, like you were just saying, I've been through more wars than a lot of these guys in the world. And now, something that you've been through 1,000 times puts you out. How is that mentally just to deal with? Like, hey, is something changing here?
Yeah, that's it. That's exactly what I thought. I thought, what's happened? My body isn't the same. My main superpower was I was super tough, super durable, and I can keep fighting. I could lose the first round or two and still come back and win. So that's always been my thing. But I've always had a high pain threshold. I've always been able to take shots on the head, no problem. Never been wobbled or dazed or nothing. And then that happened, and it just made me head go. Yeah, as you could imagine, it's like it was new to me, so it was a new feeling I was dealing with.
And so I know we keep saying we don't know about the future, but I gotta ask because I'm a diehard MMA fan. Do you think for everything all said and done, move on, next life, will you fight under the Cage Wars banner again?
Will I fight another what?
Under the Cage Wars banner.
Cage Warriors isn't on the cards right now. I've been there and done that. I love the Cage Warriors guys. They're the thing that have been. One of the fights that upset me is I fought Modestus on Cage Warriors, and I felt like it wasn't a great fight, but I felt like I edged it, and I felt like the points went the wrong way. Give it to him, and he's on a tear right now. He's in UFC and he's flying. He's doing great. But to me, that when I was fighting him, I felt like he was a beaten guy because I was chasing him, I was hunting him down, I was throwing bombs. He didn't really land much on me. He was always on the back foot. He looked like he didn't want to be in there with me, and then for it to go his way. And I took that on 3 weeks' notice as well. And he'd been training like properly in a proper fight camp. I took it on 3 weeks' notice, and that was my last Cage Warriors one. So that sort of didn't settle right with me, but I took it on the chin, as you do, because once the judges pull the scorecards out, it's done. There's no point bitching about it.
Yeah, and you're an OG of the fight game, so I kind of like to ask these questions to an OG like yourself.
Yeah.
We think that the scoring criteria is starting to get more and more complicated? Because I feel like it's every week now we're hearing something like this.
I think that the difference with me when I fought Modestus is that he was like, they wanted him to be the boy of, like, they wanted him back in the UFC, and I was a veteran, and they weren't going to put his dreams down for a veteran. Do you know what I mean? I just felt it was biased. It was biased because one of the judges gave him a complete 30-27 to make sure I couldn't get the win, and the other two judges went either way. So it was like one judge just made sure that it was done in cement, which was wrong. He didn't win every round at all. Never mind all of them. Do you know what I mean? So it is what it is. It happens all the time. It happens in boxing. It happens in MMA. It's happened to me a few times. I've been robbed a few times. I've been robbed on Bellator in Dublin, and there's nothing you can do about it. The way I see it is, if you don't put them out or finish them, then it's your own fault if it goes to the judges' scorecards.
Do you think it comes down to your actual fighting style or just the criteria itself? They don't really know what they're looking at.
Yeah, well, I fought on Bellator, and I fought some guy called Rosansky from Poland. He was a good fighter. He was from KSW. He was 14-2, good record. I fought him, and I wrestled him to the ground through every round. You know, we had a bit of a tear up standing up, and sometimes he got a bit of the better with the striking, but he didn't do no damage. And I just kept taking him down, taking him down, taking him down. And basically Bellator said, you know, it's not a wrestling tournament, but it's MMA. It's not a striking tournament either. It's you know, it's MMA, whatever martial art wins. No, Rosansky, I won that fight. That was my last fight on Bellator. Because I took him down about 6-7 times, something like that, and he had nothing for me. Pinned him down. Just didn't get the finish. The finish should have been there. I've been working on things since then.
And so looking back at all the promotions you've been in, how would you kind of rank your experience with them? Not counting OKTAGON because we don't want to ruffle any feathers, but let's just say it's PFL, Bellator, Cage Warriors. Which one did you appreciate your time with the most?
Do you know, I only fought once on PFL, but I really liked it. The reason being was because I like the scoring system. It's live, and I've been robbed a few times, so I wanted to be on PFL. And I stood in that. I think I stood in on a week's notice, and I fought. Got his name now. He's a big dude, black belt. He'd been training for 18 months. He said he had loads of pullouts. I took it on a week's notice, done 5-day fight camp, went out and beat him on points, went the distance, but I beat him with style as well, and I got the win. I was told I was in the £1 million tournaments over in the UK in the middle light heavyweights this year, but then he dropped the tournament, so it made me a free agent. So that was like something I was going for, because, like I say, with PFL, you don't really get robberies because it's all live scoring.
And so I know they're trying to rapidly expand, so maybe they're just trying to do it too quick for that tournament and they didn't have time. What if next year they come to you and say, hey, 100%, we have this £1 million tournament. Are you in, you out?
Oh, I'm not going to turn down £1 million tournament, am I? But like I say, OKTAGON so far, I've been watching all the fights, and I've not seen any robberies or anything like that. They do seem like a really legit, fair organisation. And they treated me great when I was there. And all the fighters, like all the guys that fight on there, they're just animals. It's great. I love watching it because they're all just going for it. They're all swinging. There's blood all the time. It's like a proper good fighting organisation, I think. And the guys they have on there are beasts. So I'm happy to be a part of their category.
So the widespread narrative is that, the state commission or wherever the commission is, they control the judges, they control the scoring criteria. Is it your belief that certain promotions are kind of working with those commissions?
I don't know what it is. I think at the end of the day, the people at the top of the promotions always have the last say. If they want to give a judge a nudge and say, you know, if it's a close fight, we want him to win, I'm sure that can be done. So I think it's all politics and money and stuff like that.
So you think especially that could happen in a big championship fight?
It can happen anywhere. I think we've seen it all over the world. Yeah, of course it can. It can happen anytime. There's always things like that going on in the world, and you know, there's an uproar about it for a week or two, but then it all dies down and no one's bothered.
And so since I've never interviewed before, I'd love to know what's your favorite moment of your career? Because there's been a lot of ups, a lot of downs.
Yeah, I think obviously winning the Cage Warriors World title was one of the biggest moments. Signing for Bellator and winning my first fight on Bellator against James Mullerin, that was a good moment. You know, I've had loads of good moments. Even from the earlier days on smaller shows, winning titles and stuff. They're all things that I'll never forget.
And so whether it's the next fight, 5 fights, 10 fights, whenever you do decide to put the gloves away for good, what's going to be the next step in your life?
I haven't got that far yet, but I'm going to have to put my money into something that can fund the lifestyle that I like to live. So I'm not sure. I'm literally thinking about that this year. I've been really thinking about that myself, but I haven't don't know yet. I've got a few things in mind. My own business. I've had my own businesses in the past and I've stopped them for the fighting. So I know how to run a business and stuff, but it's just doing what I love as well. I love teaching as well. I love passing my knowledge on to the next generation and that. So, you know, I might go down that path a little bit more.
And that's all I have for you today. Whatever the next step is, I'll be there to support. You got a fan in me, and I really appreciate all the wars you've been through, and I can't wait for your next fight coming up.
Cheers, mate. Nice one. Lovely
Very
speaking to you. Take it easy.